You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Oh, beautiful, full spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Patriots and Petticoats, it is my pleasure to welcome you aboard Flight 1776 with service to the United States of America and continuing service to a more perfect union. Federal regulations require that carry-on items are stowed prior to closing the aircraft door. Your items may be placed in an overhead compartment or completely under the seat in front of you. Use caution when placing items in or removing them from the overhead compartment, and let us know if we may assist you. In order to expedite the boarding process, please be seated as quickly as possible after stowing your items and take a moment to review the Constitution and Declaration of Independence located on the device in your pocket. If you are unable or unwilling to perform the functions as described on those documents, please let us know and we will find a more suitable destination for you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to spending our evening with you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patriots and Petticoats. I am one of your hosts, literally Heather. I have with me my co-hosts this evening, Eric and Chris. And then we also have two special guests. We have Fox and Joey with us this evening. One of you has your mic turned up or your audio up too much, because I can hear myself back. But other than that, we've got Fox and Joey. We're here to fight this evening. Not really. But we are going to give a little bit of an update on the primary movement that's going on in the 2024 election. We are close to the 1-year mark before the election, if you can believe that. That's blows my mind that we're at that stage at this point. But and then of course we'll have at the bottom of the show, we'll have Two Truths and a Lie, and in between some other stuff that I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy. So with that being said, I guess we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. As you guys know, if you've followed any of us here on the show, or certainly in Liberty Happy Hour, I have been a staunch supporter of Vivek Ramaswamy up to this point. Like, he has been my pick for the Republican primary. And I'm not going to speak for them both. Chris and Eric, would you guys share, like, I know it's a ways out, but the primary is only about 6 months away. So my question to you guys is, what are your feelings right now about Vivek, about DeSantis, Trump, like the current field that we have before us?
I love what Trump said, I think, yesterday about the current administration. Are the trains running on time? You know, we need to get these pedophiles. He said all the things we wanted to hear. But Vivek's my guy. And it's going to take, like, as of right now, he's my guy. And it would take a lot to get me off of him. I think that's exactly what we need. A 37-year-old billionaire who is about dollars and cents, and he understands money motivates people. Like, most of his ideas are, if this group doesn't get in line, if this agency doesn't get in line, we won't have funding. And matter of fact, we probably don't even need that agency. Like, this guy speaks my language. Big fan.
Okay. So I agree with you, but the problem is that many of the things that he's suggesting, from a financial perspective, a funding perspective, that's not handled by him. That's handled by Congress. So the question is, are the things that Vivek is saying right now, are they enticing enough to get Congress on board with them? I think that is a question that we should be asking.
I think with anything, and when these politicians talk, you got to take like 80% off. He won't do these things, but he'll move it in that direction like 4 degrees.
Okay. All right. Chris, what about you?
Hey, Heather, will you fix Joey's audio, please? I don't have it. You have access to that.
It's driving him crazy.
I can't.
Um,
Hit the mute button.
Boom.
oh, okay.
Let's produce it. Yeah. Now let's fix it real quick.
So military.
Okay.
Not yet.
I have no clue what you're asking me to do. I've never done this before.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I get it.
Joey,
I'll get it.
Very vague.
do you have some headphones or earbuds or something that you could pop in?
Nope. He just fixed it. Joey just fixed it.
Boom. Money.
No, I don't, because everything I own is Apple except this old laptop that I use every time I come on with you guys. So I have no headphones that'll fit it
Okay.
because it still has a headphone jack.
I apologize.
Nope. You got it when you just hit the fan. That fixed it.
I couldn't hear it, so
That's why it was really loud, so it was jacking with the audio leveling, so that's where we were getting the echo.
okay. I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the stream first.
So I'm a big Vivek guy right now. As it sits right now, I like Vivek. I did like that Trump said he was going to obliterate the bureaucracy, and I think either one will go in there and do that.
All right, so Fox sent me over some stuff a little bit earlier this week.
Wait, real quick, can we just like all agree that Apple sucks?
Yeah, I was about to get an iPhone, and it really hesitating now.
Android.
Fox, you have an iPhone.
Shut up.
Okay, so Fox sent me some interesting things over the course of the week regarding Vivek, and I would like for you guys to kind of talk through this. So over on the left is kind of like a screenshot. It says, this is like direct quotes from Vivek. It said, "I'm going to use campaign solutions as a tool and pour money into it to start innovating and fix this problem so that we can actually start winning some elections. The deal stems from years of close collaboration between Push and Donatelli's campaign solutions, including on high-profile Senate races such as Walker's unsuccessful challenge to the Georgia Senate, and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham's competitive re-election in 2020. It was nothing official, nothing on paper, no money going here or there," Donahue said of their collaboration. "It was simply when we went and pitched political campaigns, we also pitched campaign solutions. We went in and said, we are the best at spending your money online. We're not the best at raising it online. Here's the company that we like to partner with, and all we did was put them in a room with people." So, Fox, I would like for you to kind of talk through these expenditures that the Vivek 2024 campaign has made and what some of those may actually mean. I know Push Digital is on there. I do have another slide that is relevant to Push Digital, but we're going to come to that in a second. Talk me through these contributions, or actually expenditures, real fast.
Well, I'll just go over, how I found him to be kind of suspicious and worth looking into from the beginning, because, I'd never heard of this guy before, didn't care. Practically speaking, he's got no shot at anything other than maybe getting some.
And that's kind of, I think, really quick, Fox, that's kind of where we're both coming from with this, is that by all rights, this is still a two-way race. Yes. So we're trying to figure. So what I think Fox started sleuthing with, and what caught my eye with what Fox was originally talking about, and what he was showing over on the platform formerly known as Twitter, that that it all started to look a little bit off, especially
Yeah,
with Vivek
and
actually having a little bit of a poll surge right now.
Yeah, and this was brought to me in a space when Exit started talking about how Martin Shkreli was talking about how Vivek was a genius to him and they were friends. And I'm like, what? Whoa, that's a big ass red flag right there.
That's a massive red flag.
So thank you, Exit, for creating this this space tonight. But it caused me to start looking into, who he's surrounded himself with, what's his campaign spending money on, and how his campaign is raising funds. Now, we all know that he's got a system in place where you can get a percentage of the funds you help raise for him, which is an interesting innovation. I like it. It's a paperwork nightmare for his campaign, but otherwise it's above board. But then you look at what he's contributed to his campaign, and so far it's $15 million in personal loans. And when it's the personal loan, what that tells you is that the campaign is going to end up using every dollar and dime raised from everyone else to pay his personal loan back with interest at the end of all of this. That's a red flag for me. But then I started looking at what he's spending money on, and he spent over 1.5 million on push digital, and they're not an abnormal entity. Like, what they do is completely normal for campaigns. The problem I have is I look at push digital and everybody they've worked for, and all I see is Trump camp, Trump camp, Trump camp, Trump camp, everyone currently involved in the MAGA movement. And then I also see a company that is so deeply aligned with Lindsey Graham that there's no way they could ever be disassociated with him, because he essentially made them by how much money he's paid to push digital. And I think if you go through all of his other massive contractors, you're going to start seeing very interesting connections, with my overall conclusion being he's not running at all for himself. He's running as a proxy for the Trump administration. All he does is smear DeSantis all day long. And he's somebody that takes negative attention away from Trump. He's this new, fresh and new thing. People will cover him. He's like the Obama of the right wing. He's new with quote unquote fresh ideas. He's from a minority group that's never run for office, for that high of office before. And then so what he's going to do later on is just endorse Trump. The debate between Joey and I is, what's the timeline on that?
How hard do you think Trump goes at him? Do you think he makes up a nickname for him and does the whole thing?
I mean, Trump has not gone after Scott or Nikki Haley so far in this campaign, and I doubt he will.
There's no reason for him to, right?
I'm
good with Trump or him.
In 2016, there was no reason for him to go half out against half of the crowd, but he did anyways. And then he continued to mock people his entire time up until now. And then all of a sudden, he's this coy, quiet, low energy guy. So something's changed on his side.
Okay, so Fox, I have a legitimate question for you then at this point. Lindsey Graham is not a Donald Trump fan.
Oh, au contraire.
You think he is?
That's not entirely true, Heather.
Those two have been separated or joined at the hip forever. And yeah, there's all these little public feuds, but they always mysteriously come back together to campaign for each other. And Donald Trump was recently campaigning for Lindsey Graham, vice versa. Even though Graham's hated in South Carolina, he's there at all the Trump rallies. There's Lindsey Graham tied himself to Trump early on and made himself a Trump guy, but also somebody that could be attacked without consequence by the far right too.
So talk to me about what you think is going to happen. So you think that Vivek is just taking in the money and going to shift it to Trump?
I don't think he's going to shift his money to Trump. I think what he's going to do is he has several goals here. One is self-promotion for his company and his brand idea, to raise the profile for that. The second is to stay in long enough to raise enough funds to pay himself back, but then to also make his endorsement somewhat meaningful. And that endorsement can come after some primaries or before some primaries, but I'm thinking that he does those endorsements earlier on rather than later to get Trump above 50 at the Iowa caucuses.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a wrench in this for a second. What happens in the scenario that Donald Trump, I mean, he was just indicted again this past week. So what happens if Trump actually ends up convicted? Because the charges are federal offenses, which means that he cannot run for president.
Oh, no, he can run for president. So long as it's not treason.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Look at the amendment.
You have hundreds of people in federal prison and state prisons who run for president every election cycle.
Joe Exotic is going to be on a ballot somewhere. That's kind of from prison. Like, that's kind of the best way to bring that up there.
He's been running for governor too for a while.
Do you know that I made it through all of COVID without watching Tiger King, Mother, Daughter, whatever the fuck that show was?
Well, you really did yourself a disservice in your household.
Yeah,
apparently.
That's
the time is past. You can't really do it now.
That is my hometown. I mean, you want to go look and see how I grew up. Watch that.
The truth of what's her name's husband being alive. Carol Baskin's husband ending up being alive in the Bahamas, like, kind of ruins the magic of Tiger King now.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you can be an illegal immigrant and be a sheriff's deputy in Illinois. Trump could run.
Oh my gosh, that's on the list for tonight. Okay.
So if I can really quick, Heather, just to
absolutely. Yeah. Do you want me to go back to the other screen?
No, because we'll kind of feed into this in a second.
I have numbers too, by the way.
Oh, that's where I was going to go, but I was going to use the Real Clear Politics average because it gives us a really clear, it gives us a good picture. I mean, sort of an overall spread here. And this is really still only a two-way race if you look at the average. It's Trump right now at 52.4, DeSantis at 18.4, and Ramaswamy at 5.4. So, I mean, it's still a Trump 34 spread. If, it feels like it doesn't ring true that DeSantis is that far behind in a number of states, including Iowa. So there is that. But who are the dropouts going to be first right now? Because, I mean, we actually have Francis Suarez, the Miami mayor, at 0. So that's definitely, I mean, that's going to be a dropout probably within the next, I don't know. He won't make it to Iowa.
Don't they have to raise a certain amount of money and have a certain percentage of donors to move forward?
Yeah, so the only people that are qualified for the first debate right now are Trump, DeSantis, Vivek, and Pence, Haley, and Scott, I think. That's it. But Trump's not showing up anyway. Trump said, the hell with the debates, I have this, which, is what it is. But so it looks like it's going to be DeSantis, Ramaswamy, Pence, Haley, and Scott on that first debate stage. want to say in a couple of weeks here.
That's what I thought. So you're saying that Donald Trump is refusing to go to the debates?
Donald Trump will not be at the Fox News debate, as far as I know. That was the last I heard.
Yep,
think
just as he
mistake for
skipped the whole family council event in Iowa, then he skipped the Iowa State Fair event. He's missing every opportunity to put him not only on TV but also online, and he's kind of just hiding out in Truth Social, which, I mean, how many people actually use that?
And look, if he's going to try to do the primary basement strategy that Joe Biden used in 2020, I don't see that working for Donald Trump. And here's the reason I don't see it working for him. Trump is at his strongest when he's on that debate stage punching people in the face.
Yeah.
So when he's not out there doing that, and sure, everybody's saying, oh yeah, Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to duke it out, but people are going to hear from Vivek and from Ron DeSantis where they're not going to be hearing from Trump. Trump's going to be doing, whatever it is that he does. He's going to be issuing videos, doing a rally or whatever that no one's going to be covering because the camera is going to be over here on the debate. I mean, of course, you're going to have MSDNC and, those outlets that are going to want to say, look how crazy Trump is being over here. But we got to understand that everybody in this room right now that's on this podcast, we're the crazy people that like to consume political news like it's water. The average American voter is not us.
Right.
So what's the soundbite ultimately going to be? It's, well, Ron DeSantis has a plan to get rid of income taxes and replace it with I think at last idea it was a federal sales tax. So federal income taxes are gone under Ron DeSantis. That's what people are going to hear. They're not going to hear Trump relitigating, and the voters do not want to relitigate 2020. No one wants to relitigate 2020 except Trump and his base. And that is what has soured people, even like me, who freaking loved Donald Trump, that got more and more into Donald Trump as things went on. And then I was just like, nah, dude, I'm out after 2020 because he won't shut up about the 2020 election.
Well, especially now that everyone involved in this campaign and all of Trump's lawyers, all the transcripts and videos of their depositions of the litigation after that was finally released to the public this last month, reveals that they too agree that the elections were not stolen and that they just made this shit up to spin it in the media. And once more normal people start to see that, I think there's going to be a massive shift against Trump.
So you mean against him? So
yeah. Against
him. Then what's left then at that point? Ron DeSantis, who, I mean, he's polling lower than Mike Pence right now.
I have to question a lot of those polls, though. I mean, the Trump camp loves putting out these polls of companies that they not only run, but they're polling 200 people at a time. What I want to see are polls with 2,000 people plus.
This is a poll with 2,000 people.
Who's running it? And I'm not looking at my screen.
It says Big Village.
Never heard of that company in my life.
I have no idea who that pollster is.
Who is Big Village? But what I can tell you is when I do go to the valid polls of the traditional companies that are within a 4 to 6% being correct, the negatives on Trump are so high, just, he cannot win.
So I want to go to this poll. I get it. You guys have never heard of them before, but I mean, it's clearly weighted Democrat versus Republican. It's clearly weighted higher for Democrats. But it's the numbers that are really interesting to me. And so the top is Democrats and the bottom are Republicans. And it's like, at this moment, who would you prefer to see as the nominee for president in 2024? That's the way the question is worded. So on the Democrat question that's weighted heavier for Democrats, Democrat answers, only 62% of the Democratic Party wants Joe Biden right now, according to this poll. And
go ahead. Let me put it this way, though. you know those people will not vote for Donald Trump. There's
No.
absolute the level of hate people have for Donald Trump is too high to be overcome. So when you look at polls, like I'm looking at Marquette right now, and they're saying for, oh, damn it, Trump has like a 46%. He's polling at 46% for the Republican nomination. This isn't a new candidate coming on the scene. This is a guy who was already president. And if only 46% of Republicans at this point want him to be the nominee, I mean, 54% would rather someone else, anyone else, be the nominee over Trump. And then you have to factor in, what percentage of Republicans is needed to win the election. Because I know in real life a ton of people who will not vote for Trump.
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
mean,
at
if
this
he
AP article from today. It says he might host a competing event. Not only
hold on,
not show up.
I couldn't hear
but have-
you, Eric. Say what you
Oh,
said
I'm
again.
muted. Sorry, I was muted. I said I'm looking at this AP article from today that says not only may he not show up, but aides have discussed potential alternative programming if he opts to host a rival event, which that would be for him. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be much better. There's going to be much more microphones. Wild.
Angela said, "This is also interesting. I'm learning so much tonight. Thank you so much for shedding light on all of this. Appreciate you all." We love you too, Angela. Thank you for tuning in. Dylan says, "I think DeSantis is losing people focusing so much on culture war issues and the idea of wokeness. Most people don't care about those things." I think you're right, Dylan. I think prior to me really cheering for Vivek, like before he kind of threw his hat in the ring, I was cheering for Ron DeSantis. Like I thought what he did in Florida was really good. I don't agree with the fact that he closed down the schools during COVID. That really upset me and frustrated me. And I don't know how you can come out and say, "Oh, I did so great on COVID." And it's like, actually you kicked your kids out of school for a year. So that's a problem for me, anybody that did that.
So but how can you say that's a negative on DeSantis though and not Trump? Because why did the schools close for a year? Because the federal government instituted a federal emergency, and all of a sudden, through all of our
the
federal
state of Indiana stayed in school. Like that wasn't
some did, but who was the one going around, saying that this is going to be a massive crisis that's going to end the world, and now we have to have a special super vaccine created in ultra fast time, untested, and then delivered on everyone. I mean, this is a Trump crisis, in the fact that like Trump's trying to distance himself from every negative act that took place during COVID is quite ridiculous.
Now, I don't disagree with that. I have a problem with Trump. I have a huge problem with how he handled firearms. I have a huge problem with how he handled COVID. I have a huge problem with how he handled a large number of things. Trump did great things, but he did some really shitty things too. I do not want to vote for Donald Trump. I don't want to vote for him. I don't want to vote for him in the primary. And I really don't want to vote for him in the general election. But we are to the point where the primary is 6 months away now. And I'm going to have to choose between this massive field of candidates in the Republican Party. And I'm certainly not, we did this in the group chat, right? What's Nikki Haley known for? Buying extra curtains for the fucking house that she lived in. You know what I mean? Like that's what I remember her for. Nothing else. Chris Christie, what is he known for? Shutting down fucking New Jersey and sitting his fat ass on the beach. So I'm not dealing with Chris Christie.
Hey, he kept the restaurants open, Heather.
because he needed to fucking eat. Moving forward, you have Tim Scott, which I actually really appreciate Tim Scott. I like him a lot, but nobody else does. And I don't like his position on firearms. I have issues with his favorability for red flag laws and common sense gun control. Those words coming out of a candidate's mouth, it's instant. Nope, I'm not talking to you. So as we move through this field, these other people, I can't even fucking name them. Let's go back to this chart real quick. Hang on. Who else do we have? Perry Johnson. Who the fuck is that person? Asa Hutchinson. I didn't even know till last week that he was running for president. Doug Burgum. Who the fuck is Doug Burgum? Larry Elder is running for president. He couldn't even get elected to governor. Ryan Binkley. What? Who the fuck are these people? Like, I'm not voting for any of these people. Mike Pence came from Indiana, and he literally believes in conversion he would rather be the president of Ukraine than the president of the United States. So I'm not fucking voting for him. I am left with 3 people at this point. Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and Vivek Ramaswamy. And the only person out of those 3 individuals that is coming out boldly and plainly saying, I would like to get rid of the Secretary of Education, the entire Department of Education. I would like to get rid of the FBI. I would like to get rid of the ATF. The only person saying that is Vivek. That's it. Everyone else, they're not even fucking breathing the words reduction in federal government.
He's not just saying it. He's laying out the plan of exactly how to do it and how he's going to do it. Minute details.
His plan needs to include buying off all of Congress to pass the law that will give him the authority.
But the issue on what we're trying to tell you guys is that by the time the Indiana and Wisconsin primaries roll around, you're not going to have Vivek to vote for, because that's not what he's in this.
But for today, I just like what he's saying.
I mean, sure.
And then we have DeSantis, who's going to go in there and be a fucking rhino and suck on Mitch McConnell's cock. And then we have Trump, who's going to go in there and make it a personal vendetta, which that's fine. Just fucking execute motherfuckers.
Trump didn't make it a vendetta when he got in 2016. In fact,
I think
Donald Trump did. No, he went in and then he bowed down to every leftist person in government, did exactly what they wanted to do, abandoned his 2016 platform, and then now you have a Trump who is like pro Bud Light, pro left wing on every social issue in the United States. You know, campaigning alongside people like Bruce Jenner, where left wing people I know in real life come up to me and talk about how uncomfortable they are with the whole trans movement. I think people underestimate like how sick and tired normal people are of all that shit, all the grooming, all of the
I agree with that.
All the shit. The only people who've done anything on that is DeSantis.
You know, people are really tired of it, and you know, to my these are my dear friends, by the way, that joined us tonight, Dylan and Taylor. They're like my best friends in the world, and they're like definitely nowhere near us on the political spectrum. So it's really awesome for them to be here right now, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
BFFs. Anyway, but the other, and there is a point that there is a place for this in the conversation in the primary, absolutely. But right now, look, the number one issue for every voter is the economy. Like, it's the fact that, holy crap, Heather, what was your last receipt? It was a 32% increase.
28%, but
28% increase on the same 3 things from the same store. So for those who don't know, Heather is doing an inflation experiment where she goes to the exact same place and buys the same 3 things. A 23% increase on ground beef. What was it? Milk or eggs? It was eggs. Milk, ground beef, and regular bread. 23% on the 3 things that we all buy regularly at the store. Mm-hmm. That is what's going to be motivating voters in November of 2024. This other stuff is underpinning a lot of it, but people like DeSantis cannot just say, can't be focusing on problems like like the trans stuff, like Disney, whatever you want. And at the same time, you can't have Vivek out there talking about arcane, something like the bureaucracy that's totally arcane to the average American, because that's not what everyone is focused on right now. Everyone is focused on our dumpster fire of an economy.
So you're right. And I want to come back to this point that Dylan made about losing focus and focusing so much on culture war versus issues that people have. So my daughter had a back to school bash. She does that every year with her little girlfriends. And I've told you guys, like, the people that I am friends with in real life do not align with me politically. And so I'm always like very careful not to turn like the friendly barbecue into the Heather show where I fucking rail on them because they voted for Joe Biden. So we were sitting there and they were discussing, there were 3 couples besides and then me. And the 3 couples, one of them is incredibly wealthy. And they're like, yeah, we're going on a cruise in a couple weeks and we're going to take the kids out of school, whatever. And they were like, we're trying to get them to go with us. And they're like, we can't afford it. Like, we can't afford it. And then I said, what can anyone afford right now that's frivolous? Like, the amount of money that I spent, so $330 for school supplies, $220 for clothes and shoes. Groceries every week is $200 plus, give or take. And so, and then gas, hello. I have to drive to work. I have to drive my kids to all the places. Like, that's a lot in gas. At the end of the day, who is going to come in, fill our strategic petroleum reserve, and lower my gas prices? Who's going to do that? Who's going to come in and tell the Federal Reserve to get their shit together, or they're fucking done? Like, we're done with the Federal Reserve and we're going to let the free market reign. Like, who's doing that? I can
tell you who it won't be. It's not going to be Trump, because quite frankly, you cannot separate Bidenomics from whatever the fuck Trump did in his last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
so tell me,
we're still living in a Trump economy that's just being extended.
So there's nobody that's going to do it?
I would say the only person that we can hope to do it would be DeSantis. And he's talking about...
I haven't heard his plan.
He's talked about reining in agencies. I think he's governed Florida well.
You got to do mass layoffs. You can't target people politically, but you can do mass layoffs from the executive.
You can't. You can't. The federal employees... Vivek's plan for cutting positions will be a payday for every attorney in DC, and then people will be reinstated into their positions. But you can't have that big of a payoff without some form of congressional authorization of amending the budgets and acting in concert with those actions. It's just not going to fly. So when Vivek says he's just going to...
Then we fucking shoot motherfuckers in the fucking head. Because that's it.
Well, I mean,
that's all we got left. We're going to have to go to war. There's nothing left.
Well, I would say this. Donald Trump has raised enough money to outspend nearly every single congressional race combined and completely buy government, and he spent it all on attorneys. So
that was what I was just what I was gonna bring up. Is Trump's campaign pack has essentially turned into his legal funds pack. There was a great thread I just saw on this. I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter because calling it X is just
weird.
Anyway, so I gotta find it
porn app now. It's like
It's a giant black hat. Heather I messaged Heather earlier to make sure we were still on, and like her response came through, and like with the update and everything, it said from X, and I was like, did I forget to delete something inappropriate at some point? So Elon needs to figure out what he's doing with that. But there was a great thread over there that was showing, and it's something ridiculous, like 4 to 1 of every campaign dollar is being funneled into Trump's legal fees right now. We can talk about the fundraising push that he did after every indictment. I mean, sure, but where is the money going? I mean, we've seen a few ad buys. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen a few ads, really just attacking DeSantis. But I mean, he's going for DeSantis. Who isn't he going for other than Haley, Ed, crew that don't have a snowball's chance in hell and that are auditioning for cabinet positions? Who's he avoiding? Who's he avoiding?
Ramaswamy. But
who's sitting in the polls right now?
Yeah.
See our point?
He's taking those votes. He'll take those votes in a little bit. But so if not Trump, who can beat Biden? Because really we need to win the general. That's the point, right?
DeSantis beats Biden.
Yeah.
And DeSantis has the lowest unfavorability ratings of all the candidates right now.
So if DeSantis comes in, is Biden out and now it's DeSantis versus Newsom?
That's what I think will happen.
Or is it Michelle? Obama comes in, the darling walks up and takes it all.
I am so loath to speculate on what the Democratic Party is going to push because it gets into some tinfoil hat territory. But let me tell you guys this right now, with everything that's finally coming out with some of these tapes that are getting leaked and stuff, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that a context is being created whereby the Democrats don't have to deal with Joe Biden anymore.
So you think that they're putting out enough information that he gets impeached and they'll say, oh, there's just so much evidence. We don't have any choice. Look how ethical we are. We're going to vote our own party member out on an impeachment.
I am saying that a context is being created whereby...
Listen, play into my fantasy here, Joey. Come on.
Whether electorally or, giving the perpetual moralizers in the Senate a permission structure to vote with the Republicans to remove Joe Biden. Absolutely.
Okay, I want to go through these chats real fast because there are quite a few of them building up. Taylor, who is on Dylan's account, said, well, we had to push the vaccine because it was an unprecedented virus killing people in droves. They had to roll it out quick. So I don't want to turn this entire episode into the Vax or Not Vax channel, but I would be curious, Taylor, to know now what you know about the vaccines, the adverse effects that they did not disclose through the testing process, and the fact that it never stopped transmission or the ability or inability to actually gain the virus. I'm curious if you feel the same now about the vaccine as you did at that time. Not saying that you weren't right in your position at the time, given the circumstances and the information that was distributed by the Trump administration, but I would be curious to hear your thoughts on this now. Okay, Tex says at least the Republicans have, unlike California selection, that like the Democrats. Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan haven't changed their voting laws and rules. That's correct. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that have been made between 2020 and right now. Now Michigan lost theirs in 2022. And I believe Wisconsin lost theirs as well. But all of these states prior to that had super majorities in their gubernatorial office as well as their congressional offices. And they could have shored up the opportunity to have a solid run election. And they chose not to do that. And so shame on them.
But other than that, the Republicans need to play the game. Bottom line, DeSantis has talked about this, that look, in states where, like, we banned it in Florida, but in states where we can ballot harvest, we're going to ballot harvest. That's what saved Michelle Steele. I just forgot his name. Fox up there in Ventura County. Fox is gone. I can't believe I just blanked on his name, but that saved a couple of the California Republicans that were vulnerable. Was that they decided that they were going to ballot harvest because it's legal here in California, and you know what? They squeaked it out, but they won. So in these states where you can play that game, look, Republicans
you gotta play to win. You gotta play to win.
I get it. I'll probably vote early again in this cycle because, I'm sure Heather's going to want me here for election night again. So, that means I can't go vote on election day. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go vote in person on early. But Republicans have to start voting early. You have to start embracing some mail-in. You have to start ballot harvesting in these states where it's legal. If we do not play this game, and if we do not play it with the ground game on the exact same level as the Democrats are doing it, we're never going to win another presidential election. And you know what? Right now we have Ronna McDaniel over there at the RNC burying her head in the sand on the issue. And you know who's the champion of doing this and getting people registered to vote? Some guy out of Virginia named Scott Pressler, who basically just came on the scene out of nowhere.
He hasn't been out of nowhere. He's actually been on the scene for a really long time. He's just finally getting platformed.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, he just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing these sessions and he's been doing this, I don't want to call it ballot harvesting, but registering voters, the classes and all of that stuff. He's been doing that for over 10 years. But it's just now finally starting to gain traction. But those classes where he teaches people how to help people get registered to vote or to change their registration to another party, he's really, really good at that. Like, I wish that another huge bone of contention that I have, and again, I don't want to I'm not a Republican anymore, and I will say that full-throated. But if it's down to the Republican Party and Joe Biden, I'm going to vote for the Republican Party. But one of the biggest mistakes that the Republican Party made was allowing Ronna McDaniel to go ahead and be the RNC chair again. She is the biggest failure for that party that I've ever seen in my entire life.
That was a no-win situation. The biggest benefit she had was that she was able to raise a ton of money. But the alternative, I think, would have been
where the fuck is she spending it?
That's a good question. And I don't agree, and I don't agree with a whole lot that she has done. But what I can tell you is that a former board of directors for California ACLU shouldn't even be involved in the RNC, let alone be running for its chairmanship. And her law firm shouldn't be making any money.
Are you talking about Dylan Harmeet?
Yes, I don't stand her at all. Her firm is a PR firm. They're a bunch of grifters. Every social media grifter you see online is represented by her firm. They essentially created the whole model where they set up the Proud Boy defense and raise money for everybody involved, and then all of a sudden all that money just goes to Gavin McInnes and no one else. And that's been the model that Trump copied for January 6th. That was created by their firm. Right. I think she's a scam artist. I do not trust her. She's not a right-wing person at all. Right-wing people with money don't go and practice in New York and Los Angeles. That's just not something you see.
That's the best breeding ground for hate. You can just learn how to be hated. Okay, I'm gonna keep going through this. I met Asa Hutchinson. He would win in the 2004 election. I don't know if that's a typo or a joke.
He's got Hunter Biden problems with his son's endless cocaine use. And go look up his involvement with CIA drug trafficking.
Pennsylvania elected a douchebag governor and Fetterman and a dead person. Don't forget that. They also elected a non-living human being.
Well, Fetterman got elected because he was a personable guy who everybody
felt sorry for.
No, everybody could get along with. The guy who acts blue collar in a mostly blue collar state versus millionaire snake oil salesman, TV doctor.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of the amateur, politicos don't get, is that, rather than bitch on Twitter about election practices you don't agree with, why aren't you out there with your county committee knocking on doors, meeting voters, and
Yes.
helping people get to the polls, engaging in poll watching
Yes.
when you can, or getting a fucking job with the county and then being the election worker, so then you could see like, these people on the internet who claim that we're like inserting fake ballots everywhere are just making shit up and have no idea what they're talking about.
Right. Tex said people are expecting eccentric billionaires, Trump and Musk, to save them. They also expect the government to save them, and that's a really disappointing thing
It's
as well.
it's the one man hero is going to solve all their problems because they don't want to work in groups to solve problems themselves.
Yeah.
Really, they just need to get the fuck out of our way and let us just go.
Yeah.
Quit regulating us. Quit sticking your fucking boot on our neck, and we'll fucking
Drill,
fix it
baby,
ourselves.
drill.
Yes. I don't think the average person is really that concerned with trans issues. I agree with Joey. Inflation, the economy, wage stagnation, and rising costs are much more pressing issues for people.
The average person does not want to discuss trans issues either. It's not a thing you want to bring up in polite company.
I think that's true. If you're going to put two issues together and ask people, what's going to get their vote at the end of the day. But I can tell you that issue produces so many negatives for so many people. It's the cream and cherry on top that pushes a person over the edge.
Right. Milk, gas, bread could be $1 and people would still vote for Biden because of Transformers and DEI. Agree with real life friends and family. Even my Indiana relatives, most wouldn't vote for a Republican. I'm a union auto worker. My bank account feels like a leaky life raft, just trying to keep bills paid and food on the table. So true.
Yeah. What's up, Jake?
So that's where the messaging really needs to be targeted. I mean, even Trump isn't talking to union voters anymore in the Midwest, because look, I've been saying this, Heather, and I know Heather knows that I've been saying this forever, is that the perennial swing states are no longer the perennial swing states. Elections are going to be won in the Midwest, in the Rust Belt. That's where those were the states that Trump swung in 2016, and those are the states that are going to keep swinging elections back and forth.
And that's where the fentanyl crisis is. Outside of Georgia and Arizona, everything is Rust Belt, and everything is absolutely necessary to win. Ohio, Pennsylvania, either Wisconsin or Michigan.
And those are always
talking
close.
So, Joey, the point that you made, like nobody's really talking about that. One of the issues that I have with that is because I don't think they know how to fix it. Like, I don't think that they believe that that this is something that they can even tackle at this point.
I mean, that's possible. You just got to talk. You have to talk to union voters. To the union voters. And I mean, look, Wisconsin's actually if you really want to boil it down, maybe not politically, but Wisconsin's a very conservative state. Like, you go to, let's take Eric and Chris out of the equation, because we all know where Eric and Chris stand. But if they were to go talk to their friends, what would you guys, really be talking about? I mean, I know I've talked to Chris a little bit about, his life and what he does. Not so much Eric. We'll, really kind of get to know each other at some point, Eric, but family, country, these are the values in the Midwest there. These are the people that need to be talking to like normal people. That's the thing, is that politicians, DeSantis included, and I love the guy. So I'm going to call him out on this too. Don't show up at the county fair and tell a kid that is freaking icy has a lot of sugar in it. What the hell are you doing? Go enter the hot dog eating contest. You know, go talk to the tradesman who just got out of trade school and still is a little unclear as to whether or not he's going to have a job because of the energy crisis. Because if you don't think that's going to filter on down the line to HVAC and to, and to any of these trades,
Everything. It's everything.
Iowa, and let's talk about Iowa and Nebraska for a second. I mean, we think Nebraska is all good to go. Nebraska is not all good to go. Neither is Iowa, for that matter. I mean, Trump won Iowa by 8 points. That was a fluke. I'm going to tell you right now, Iowa is still very much up for grabs in electoral politics. If you're not talking to farmers down there about
their farms being straight up stolen,
yeah,
in the name of climate change,
soil regulations, and you don't necessarily have to talk to them about it from a position of authority. Like, don't get me wrong, because that's a lot for the one person to go through. Like, I mean, I can't sit there and talk to a farmer about how to produce crops, like, because I have no operational knowledge of it. But what I can do and what they can do is go down there and say, what's going on? What do you need from me? Figure out what they say they need and take it with you to devise policy that gets it for them. That's what they're not doing. They don't listen. They are talking at us as the electorate. And until we start holding them accountable for that, we're gonna get the sorts of books that Trump wants. This 3-ring. We got the lion over here. We got Ramaswamy and his cobra over here. We've got DeSantis over here with his alligator doing God knows what. No, that's not what we need to be doing.
Oh, Joey.
I don't disagree. I would like to see more concrete proposals and solutions from these guys. But was it Chris that asked the question, is there any way that they can actually fix these problems?
Well, it was me that asked the question. That I think the reason, it wasn't really a question, just an observation. The reason they keep avoiding it is because they don't think they can fix it. They don't want to put a plan out there because they know it'll get ripped to shreds.
I mean, any plan would get ripped to shreds. I think you can start permanently fixing the economy over time. The question is, politically, can you have the willpower to do it, and the patience for it? And you start by increasing domestic production of oil or any other commodity that we could produce and trade ourselves, while increasing domestic manufacturing. I mean, that's step one. Step two is a lot of libertarians won't like it, but you start cracking down on drugs like fentanyl. Yeah. You close the border. A lot of people. Well, I have a lot of thoughts on the fentanyl crisis, but I think a reason why nobody talks about it is because nobody cares about the people who are affected, because cares if a person just offs themselves because they're a drug addict who is not productive.
Yeah,
there's a certain public perception of opiate addicts.
Well, I mean, there's a public perception of it.
I have a very callous opinion against the opioid users, to where, I see all these departments everywhere, in like schools and companies putting in Narcan systems into their office. Whereas my position is just like, look, man, if you're going to the streets for your addiction and you can't control it, then just let them OD. That's my position. But I recognize how callous and unpopular it is.
I love alcoholics and addicts. Those are my people. I like them sober.
Yeah.
But those are my people. I love them.
I'm gonna go through some of this chat real fast. Rachel joined us. DeSantis isn't special in that everyone claims they're slashing agencies. Jake says Trump is responsible for what, 3 rounds of stimulus as well as excessive unemployment benefits. When I was laid off during COVID, I was making about $50 a week more than I did when I was working. Do
Most
we
of the
really think
people
the
I
left will
know
let a
got a
Republican?
raise during
Yeah.
COVID by staying at home.
Yeah. I took the vax and was fooled by fault. Dylan said to answer your question, or not Dylan, Taylor, I apologize. To answer your question, Heather, I don't think the purpose of the vax was to stop transmission. It was meant to weaken the lethal effects of COVID should you get it. Someday, Taylor, you and I are going to have a conversation about this because that is not what the purpose of the vaccine was. That is what the messaging became after they figured out that it's not going to successfully stop transmission.
I think it was
I think
actually
you guys would have a good talk.
compromise our immune systems, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, I don't want to turn this in because it could very easily turn into, I think Friday night happy hour did for a little bit, but I think there's misconception around the vax. Sorry, no worries. Scott Pressler can't do it all politically. Don't worry about having multiple parties. Canada has 5 and keeps electing Trudeau. Rona spent her money on outfits and plastic surgery and other appearance stuff. She looks a lot better than in 2016. Not everyone is born lovely like Heather. Oh my gosh, I'm going to blush. Tex, thank you so much. You're wrong, but I appreciate it. Keep coming back. It'll be good. Fox says, I agree, but Republicans are using trans people as the target for moral panic to get voters to vote for them. Also, Joey, Republicans are historically anti-union. I keep saying Dylan says, but this is Taylor on Dylan's account. So, and I know that, but I appreciate that he puts it in parentheses for me after the fact every time. Tex said Minnesota is Midwest and going off the rails of insanity, along with Madison, Milwaukee, and Green Bay.
Chris was just in Green Bay. I know Madison and Milwaukee are bonkers.
Iowa did elect.
I'm in Minneapolis all the time, just as much as I am in Green Bay, Madison. They're all off the fucking rails.
Iowa did elect a Republican governor who supports DeSantis. Dylan said, I feel like there needs to be an acknowledgement from the GOP on solutions regarding student loan payments resuming. People are upset about the Supreme Court blocking Biden's forgiveness plan. Curious for GOP stance.
Yeah, they
Sorry, Mom
pissed off.
said you could have ice cream, but it's dinner time, and we can't have ice cream.
Yeah, and that's a funny response, but you just pissed off 26 million voters at the same time you gave loans to businesses and then just forgave those loans.
But we didn't. I want to stop right there. The Republicans didn't fucking do anything. Biden lied to a voting base, and then SCOTUS called it out and said it's bullshit. That's that. Republicans didn't do anything.
Republicans forgave the PPP loans.
Okay, but was it illegal? If it was illegal, then run it up to the Supreme Court.
If it wasn't done,
the average voter, it's the same thing.
I mean,
but Biden.
The question here is, the coffers are being pilfered, and we're arguing the procedural process of which they're being pilfered. I mean, people don't care that they're being robbed legally. They care that they're being robbed.
In all the PPP loans.
The right way to do it.
All of it was forgiven.
All of it. The right way to do this is to go visit, knock on the university's doors, and say, "Give us our fucking money back. That was bullshit."
Doing the same thing with the PPP loans. They were no longer a loan. The PPP loans became a grant, and they were supposed to be paid back. And so you got to it's not necessarily, it's understanding where the frustration is coming from on one thing versus another. But Fox is also right. God help me for saying that again. That we're sitting here arguing about, the Treasury being drained and bitching about, why aren't we voting on how the Treasury is going to be drained? That's not what we need to be doing right now. Yes, another massive financial giveaway is going to, have a problem with the inflation rate. But what do we do about it?
But we're doing massive financial giveaways. What seems like now, at least bi-weekly to foreign countries, specifically Ukraine. And now Taiwan.
Yeah.
We just promised $1 billion to Taiwan.
What?
So my question is, at what
Why?
point does our leadership in Congress and in the executive begin to say, so here's the thing, and you guys know me, I think that you should just let everyone keep their own fucking money and the government can just disappear. Like, that's what I really believe. But I'm not going to get what I want in this situation. They're going to continue to steal money from all of us to spend however they see fit. So my thing is, at this point, if you can steal trillions of dollars to send to Ukraine, why can't you spend trillions of dollars to make college free for everyone, period? You paid off your loan, you get it refunded to you. You owe and whatever, we're going to pay your loan off. You want to go to school moving forward, we're going to pay for your collegiate education moving forward.
If you can
And
find
stop
it for
sending money to
Zelensky, you can
Ukraine.
find it for me.
Do what?
If you can find it for Zelensky, then you can find it for me.
That's where I'm at this point. So I like, if I see a candidate that comes out and says all money will now be that's stolen from you will collectively be spent on people in this country, okay, fine. Go forgive student loans. I don't give a fuck.
No, I'm
agree with
on
that. Except for if we involved them too much, then a free college, and then now the Congress is dictating how much college costs, how much they're going to pay for the college, and now the professors make $10,000 a year, and now our college is an extension of the fucking failing educational system K through 12 is in America.
All of a sudden,
Do you
college.
think that the college system right now isn't a
No,
failed
I
system
don't.
already?
But I think it is. But I think that it's maybe it would get worse.
I mean, those are state-run schools too, right? Like
Yeah,
University
no,
of
I know.
Wisconsin is a state-run school.
Yeah.
But we also
most of the debt is from public universities as well.
Right.
We also have to stop telling people that they have to go to college, because you know what? It's not the best it's not the best life direction for everybody. It's not. I mean,
anybody listening, if you don't want to go to college, but you're like, but I need to make money, but I like the trades. You make a good fucking living in the trades. I've built a good life, and I've never owned the company. I work for other people. It's
okay,
possible.
I'm going to go to Jake's comments here real fast. I think Republicans' beef with unions is more the shilling they do for the left than actual organized labor. Democrats claim to be pro-union, but they screw us over every step of the way since Obama.
I think Jake is probably one of the best examples. And Chris, are you union or no?
No, I was for about 6 months, and then I've been in the union, so I worked my whole career up until last year, non-union. I went to the union for 6 months, and I jumped back out of it.
But I think so then I'm going to say that Jake is probably the best example of that, because, you know, Jake's obviously the union voter that we're talking about here. But there's a difference between the union structure, the bosses, the people at the top, and the political operations versus the actual union base at the bottom, if you will, and what their views are, especially in these areas we're talking about: Missouri, Wisconsin, Midwest. They don't just. This isn't a monolith, even within unions, and we can't necessarily. And that's why, regardless of the R or the D next to your name, that's why the politicians need to stop talking at people and start talking to them, and that's going to be the Republicans' path to victory every election going forward from here on out.
Jake also said, how many steel mills and coal mines have they shut down? I build trucks for a living and they attack gas engines. They're trying to kill the oil industry. They're raising taxes on the middle class. And to top it off, they think burger flippers and shelf stalkers should make the same money we do for our hard work. Oh, and we're supposed to pay off student loans for our managers. This reminds me of a conversation that I happened upon on Twitter that Chris was having with these people who he had mentioned that his daughter she works at an ice cream shop, and he's like, oh, so my daughter who works at the ice cream shop should be making $32 an hour or something like that. And it was this massive fight about whether or not his daughter should be working in the first place. not recognizing the original point of the entire argument that ice cream workers should be getting $32 an hour, which was really funny.
Oh yeah, they told me I was I worked my daughter to death,
Like a
and I'm not
slave
allowing her a
driver.
childhood. Oh, for fuck's sake, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Oh, it was a mess. Pat, also not forget Biden's direct quote to a union worker: "I don't work for you."
Yikes.
He said, "I'm union. I'm represented by a healthcare union as a social worker." Now they're having like their own internal dialogue, so I'm not gonna talk about that anymore.
And
But
real quick, I don't want to. I jumped in the union, and I don't want. It was good. I came out of the field. If I was still in the field, I would have stayed in the union where I was at. But I took a management position, so I came out of it and went into the. I just time to save my knees and hips. Watch my kid play softball. So I took yeah. But if I was in the field, I'd still be union. I'd have retired union.
why?
Money.
There's a place for union. There's a place for unions in conservative populism.
It's money.
There's a place for it. We just haven't, people. The messaging just isn't there yet.
If you're if you're an HVAC tech in the Milwaukee area and you like local 18, you're like 53.73. Bring home on your check an hour. The overtime is ridiculous. You make a lot of money, and all your health care is paid for, your pension, all that shit. It's very hard to deal with. Now I'm in management in a non-union company, and I have to compete hiring. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
I have to get them with personality, Heather.
I want to touch on one other thing real fast before we go to Two Truths and a Lie. We got about 5 minutes. The CDC detects coronavirus, HIV, hepatitis, and herpes at an unlicensed California lab.
Was it in West Hollywood?
Is that Fresno County?
No, it is not. That was a joke because of the herpes.
Oh, okay. It said that the
place looked
CDC
unsanitary as hell.
found at least 20 potentially infectious agents at the warehouse. Local and federal authorities spent months investigating a warehouse in Fresno County, California. They suspect was home to an illegal, unlicensed laboratory full of lab mice, medical waste, and hazardous materials. The health department's been evaluating and assessing the activities of an unlicensed laboratory. All of the biological agents were destroyed by July 7th following a legal abatement process by the agency. The evaluation required coordination and collaboration with multiple federal and state agencies to determine and classify biological and chemical contents on site. According to court documents, city officials inspected the location on March 3rd for building violations and found various chemicals being stored. Hundreds of mice at the warehouse were kept in inhumane conditions. The city took possession of the animals in April, euthanizing 773 of them. More than 175 were found dead. The CDC tested substances, detected at least 20 infectious agents. The investigation found the tenant was Prestige Biotech, a company that's registered in Nevada and unlicensed for business in California. City officials spoke with Shi Kin Yao, who was identified as the company president, through emails included in the court documents. Did you hear that name?
Uh-huh.
You know what?
Portuguese.
Oh, no.
Irish.
One more time. I think Fox is strapping into his fursuit in the background there.
Shu Kin Yao. That is Chinese.
Good observation.
And it said the other addresses provided for officials were unable to get any California-based address for either company. The other addresses provided for identified authorized agents were either empty offices or addresses in China that could not be verified.
Mm-hmm. It looks to me like they're taking the same approach that the cartel takes with their illegal grows. It's just go, set up, do it. What's the worst they're gonna do? Bust 5 of you? Who cares?
I just want to say this one more time, okay? Last week we had 800,000 acres. How many acres was it that was purchased outside of an Air Force base?
800,000?
Percentage
800,000,
chance.
80,000, something like that. It was an excessive amount of land.
Mhm.
Now, in California, we have Chinese shell companies operating an unauthorized biolab with over 20
Mhm.
pathogens found, and they still don't know who is actually responsible for it other than the one person, Chicken Yao.
Now, what are the odds
And
that
no arrests
Prestige
have been made, by
Worldwide
the way.
here has their name on one of the deeds around Air Force bases? It's pretty good.
This man has not been arrested. They haven't been able to find him. They don't know who he is.
He might not even be real.
Probably isn't. This is a problem. Like, this is a huge fucking problem.
The cost or the risk
Who's
compared
going to go into the White House and fix this?
there's almost no risk in them. It's all benefit to do this. If you do 10 of these,
Do it in the country. Now you don't even have to use our money in your lab over in your country. Now you can do it in a fake lab in this country.
yeah. Now think about how much more likely a Wuhan situation is when this shit is happening in a storage locker.
Find them a fucking wet market and a bat, and they'll be good to go.
Get
Yeah.
Something's gonna come out of there. One of these nasty bugs is gonna get out of these loose cages that they have over there. I mean, I saw the pictures. I saw stacked, disheveled cardboard boxes. I mean, it looked like
Yeah.
this organization. Nobody was making efforts to clean anything. It was just begging for an outbreak to happen. Is essentially what I saw.
Well, and think about like the heat. Think about those cultures and stuff. What did they do to fix this place? They set it on fire? Because I feel like that's the only thing they would be able to do.
You would almost have to with those
Yeah.
kinds of pathogens found. I don't see how else you would do it unless you can't just bleach out these pathogens. You would have to burn the whole area.
Some of them are airborne. Like you're talking about coronavirus. Like
And
that's
we all
not
know
a
how that one's gone recently. So
right. Oh man. Okay. It is that time.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies. Oh, no, you can't.
Oh, I love that intro so much. Okay. Today's articles were hard to choose, just so you know. So, for people who are new tuning in, Two Truths and a Lie is a segment that we do at the bottom of every show where I share 2 stories that are real and 1 story that is not real. You're not allowed to cheat and use the internet. If you do, it's not any fun, and I'll use my mom finger. And you have to choose which story is the lie. I am going to begin with story number 1. A tiny knockoff Louis Vuitton handbag sold for $63,750 at auction earlier this week. The green bag, made by a New York-based art collective, measures in at 657 by 222 by 700 micrometers, smaller than a grain of salt and narrow enough to pass through the eye of a needle. The bag was on display earlier this month and mounted under a microscope. That is story number 1. Story number 2. Scientists previously only had evidence that worms were able to remain in a state for up to 40 years, but these creatures coexisted with woolly mammoths. Ancient worms were revived after 46,000 years. They were thought to have lived in the late Pleistocene era and they're a small group of worms found 40 meters deep in the Siberian permafrost. They have been thawed out and revived. They are now alive. Story number 3. Scroll. Okay. In a discovery that has captured the imagination of the world, a team of marine archaeologists has unveiled the existence of an ancient underwater city off the coast of an uncharted island in the Pacific Ocean. The submerged metropolis, believed to be over 5,000 years old, presents an astonishing glimpse into a forgotten civilization that once thrived in a now submerged landscape. The underwater city has been dubbed the Atlantis of the Pacific, and it was first detected through advanced sonar technology, which revealed the outline of extensive structures and intricate architectural formations lying beneath the ocean's surface. Excited by the potential significance of their findings, the team conducted a series of deep-sea dives to explore the submerged ruins. Those are your 3 stories. Which one is the lie?
Can you repeat number 2?
Yep, let me pull it up again. Sorry.
Joey and I were right on the same.
Number
Wait.
2,
Louis Vuitton.
scientists
was
have
the
managed
first
to
one.
reanimate worms that were frozen for an estimated 46,000
Oh.
years.
Fuck, I believe 1 and 2 the same amount.
Man, as long as there's a Kardashian alive, the one can absolutely be true.
A Louis Vuitton bag that's the size of a grain of salt.
Yeah. As long as Instagram has stories or reels.
Genesis.
Somebody's gonna
Rachel
buy
says
that.
3.
3 is the fake one.
3
Dylan says
is
1.
lie. I'm
What?
saying
3 was way too well written.
I wish I could look up how long ago the Pleistocene era was.
I'm gonna give it to 3. It was way
2.
too well written.
I'm on
Heather put some time into that.
You say what, Eric?
Reanimated worms.
Reanimated worms 2? Hold on, I gotta get my book out.
comments.
Taylor says
There,
1.
guess is in.
He's out on a limb out there.
All right.
I mean, that is pretty fucking ridiculous. How would you make that? How would you manufacture something smaller than a grain of salt? I suppose they got robot arms.
So pretty soon, if that's true, then we'll have the world's smallest violin
Yep.
to actually play for.
Are they still making Stradivarius?
So
It's not Stradivarius.
Taylor says 1. Rachel said 3. And then Chris said 3. Eric said 2. Joey said 3.
I said 3.
And Fox said 3.
Yep.
Amaro Carabino comes in at the very end of the show and said, "What politics are we talking about?"
The pimp ones, baby.
I'm so sorry. This is 2 truths and a lie. All right. That it for everybody?
Let's go.
Let me get a minute. Number 3 is the lie.
Son of a...
Way too well
The
written.
plot of every sci-fi original movie except for Sharknado. Like,
I was like, those words are really big.
This
Actual
is the
writers don't
Louis
do that
Vuitton
anymore.
purse.
Holy snickies. That's hot. Wish I had that. Who bought it?
I don't fucking know.
Louis?
Somebody who paid almost $40,000 for that. $40,000 for that. And it's not even real Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. It's just somebody carved. Wow.
somebody had way too much time on their hands.
I need
is
to
why the
find a way
robots
to
can
write
kill us
shittier
all.
stories so that more of you, or some of you, are cheating. I don't know what.
I thought
No, I
sure
I've
that
seen
I saw
1 and 2
something
were on
about an
Twitter
underwater
this week.
city.
So
See, that's the other thing too. So I preemptively asked some advice of real life people. I'm like, which one of these sounds more like the fake story? And they're like, oh, the worms for sure. Oh, like 46,000 years. I'm like, okay, that's good. And so I write my fucking
Heather, that's the deal. You write the lie. So it has like big words that all make sense, and it all like it flows nicely. Writers aren't that good anymore.
They're really not.
You need to dumb it down a little bit.
Well, every
Barstool
other
was
story
the
that I had, like the fact that India is still using carrier pigeons for transmitting like messages back and forth, they're like, "Oh, I saw that this week. Oh, I saw the worms this week. Oh, there was a hiker that they found that died in permafrost in 1987. Oh, I found that one. I saw that one this week."
That's also kind of the thing, is that we're all a bunch of terminally online people. I mean, I've sent you some candidates for Two Truths and a Lie that sounded just absolutely out there, but could have worked.
Yeah, but you can't play if I do that. I can't use what you send me. So I'm gonna what I'm gonna have to start doing, instead of it being like current day crazy news stories, I'm gonna have to start going like in the super far
old
past,
timey shit.
like old school stuff. And I'll even write my articles to be old school instead of current.
23 skidoo, or whatever they used to
All right,
say.
to the fans who are listening, see, Taylor was cheating too. Not really. He's not cheating. The problem is, and then Rachel says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's facts.
So to the fans who come in every week and listen and tune in, I love you guys. Thank you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. The way you can support us more is by liking and sharing so that other people can figure this out. Please do that if you get an opportunity. I don't know how to put those fun like pop-ups. It's like like, share, subscribe.
Heather, how do people follow you on Twitter, X?
You can find me at Shouse34. It's like house with an S in front of it. 34. And then Eric is really smart and he puts his Twitter handle in his name on his little screen. Yep. And then Chris is the exact same. It's PSR producer instead of host guy.
Correct.
So that's how you can find us. Fox, Joey, please plug yourselves on where they can find you.
You can follow me at Twitter at Joey Macasebe. I'm probably going to change that to be something a little bit more pithy. So when I am on here, we'll come up with something. But for now, follow me on Twitter, X, Elon's, whatever, at Joey_Macasebe. And yeah, you can at me. You can tell me how wrong I am about everything. And or you can just, slide into my DMs if you're, cute gay guy. That's also allowed.
My brain has been saying it wrong the whole time. It was like Mocha Saib or something is what my brain was saying every time I saw it.
He's Italian, so it's like, Picasso.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate you as always. Tex, thank you for tuning in. We love you. Taylor, it was great to have you. I hope you come back. Dialogue is always great. We try really hard to be respectful, still share separate opinions, and do that. True said good show, and Jake said you can find Fox at Fox the Furry, which is
that is absolutely not my handle.
Fury
and
like Fist of Fury.
Well, yeah, Jake spelled it wrong.
Somebody's gonna have their tires slashed when they when they go home.
All right, you guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.